We got porch light talking secrets we keep. Crystal's calling it like she sees. With coffee laughs and a little backwoods breeze. But no drama here, just truth and grace. With a southern heart and a tell it straight face. So pull up the chair, stay a little bit longer. Round here that real talk's a whole lot stronger. That's so Crystal.
Welcome to the holler. Welcome to the holler, where the sass runs deep. We got porch light talking secrets we keep. Crystal's calling it like she sees.
With coffee laughs and a little backwoods breeze. No drama here, just truth and grace. With a southern heart and a tell it straight face. So pull up the chair, stay a little bit longer. Around here that real talk's a whole lot stronger.
That's so Crystal. Welcome to the holler.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are having a good day. Bear with me. I've been sick. I wanted to do this story time. And I hope that it helps somebody. So come on in the holler, pull up a chair, and we'll get started on one of the most downright messy men in the Bible and how God still used him anyway. His name was Jacob. Put a 1 in chat if y'all have heard about Jacob. Now, don't let his name fool you. This man was a hot mess from the womb to the tomb. See, Jacob was a twin. His mama Rebecca was carrying him and his brother Esau. And I've got notes here, y'all. Hey, chatty. So bear with me. When it comes to the Bible, that's about the only time that I really go off my notes. So these here. His mama Rebecca was carrying him and his brother Esau. And them babies were fighting in the womb. I ain't making it up. The Bible says, and the children struggled together within her. And you can find that in Genesis 25:22 in the King James Version. So she prayed about it like a good woman should. And the Lord told her straight up, 2 nations are in thy womb, and the elder shall serve the younger. Genesis 25:23. In all the scriptures that I'll be giving you all, it will be the King James Version. But notice right there, it says 2 nations are in thy womb, and the elder shall serve the younger. So God already spoke the blessing and prophesied about how Jacob's life was going to be. Now, God had already had a plan. But Jacob, he still tried to make it happen his own way. When it came time to be born, Esau came out first, red and hairy like a little woolly worm. And Jacob came right after him, grabbing Esau's heels like, don't forget about me. So they started out struggling. That's where he got his name, Jacob, which means supplanter, or in plain holler terms, the one that cut in line. Now let's fast forward a bit. Esau was a wild man out in the woods and hunting and smelling like deer jerky. Jacob, he was a homebody, hanging around the tents, cooking, stew with his mama. He was a mama's boy. One day Esau came in hunting looking like he'd about pass out, and Jacob sees his chance. He says, "Sell me this day thy birthright." Now, y'all, this ain't just some little firstborn sticker. This was an inheritance, the family blessing, a holy promise from God. And Esau, that man said, "Behold, I am at a point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do me?" You can find that in Genesis 25:32. So, in short, he's saying, I'm about to starve to death. So, what good will this do me? What good is the birthright if I stand here and I starve to death? So, he gave it up for soup. It's lentil, so it could have been beans. He could have gave it up for beans, to be honest. That's like trading your future for a McDouble with fries, y'all. Now, before we go judging him, people still do that. We give up long-term peace for short-term pleasures. Folks trade Colin for comfort, purity for attention, and joy for one little hit of something cheap. That's the same stew. How many times have people prayed for, this is just an example, for a husband, and then they go for the first one they see, and this particular husband may belong to somebody else, but they still try to get it blessed by God. God is not sending you somebody else's husband. Up front and blunt, he's not. And even though they know that that ain't sent from God, but because it's convenient, they still go with it. Just a little example there. Now, their dad, Isaac, was getting old and blind as a bat. He was about to give out the blessing to Esau. Rebecca overheard that and was like, not today. She had her favorite, and it wasn't Esau. So she called Jacob in and said, "Boy, go grab 2 goats. I'll cook up something your daddy loves, and we'll fool him into blessing you instead." Now, I'm paraphrasing. I'm putting it in holler terms, but you can, I always encourage everybody to grab their Bible and go back and read after me. But she done said, we're going to get these goats. I'm going to cook up a meal that your daddy likes, and we're going to fool him, and he'll bless you instead. And Lord have mercy, they did just that. Jacob even said, "I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing." He knew better. That's another case of an Eve. Knowing better and not doing better. But you'll find that also, Genesis 27:12. But his mama said, "Let the curse fall on me." Now, that's love or manipulation. So Jacob put on Esau's clothes and glued goat hair to his arms and neck. Esau must have looked like a Sasquatch. If he had to go through this much trouble, y'all, this man was hairy. Then he walked right in and lied to his daddy's face. Isaac asked, "Art thou my very son Esau?" And at this moment, Jacob said, "I am." Y'all, God had already promised him a blessing, but Jacob stole it anyway. Like folks today try to take what God already had in store without waiting on his timing. How many times have I said on here that standing still is one of the hardest things for us to do, but there's a lot of times that God puts us in a situation so that we can grow in our surroundings, and then he'll multiply our blessings. Now, when Esau found out, boy, he was heated. He said he was going to kill Jacob, straight up, a Cain and Abel style. So Jacob ran like a squirrel on fire and ended up at his uncle Laban's house. And I know I'm probably mispronouncing that, but for the sake of the story, it's his uncle's house. And guess what? The trickster got tricked. Now, when he gets here, he sees this woman named Rebecca. I'm pretty sure it was Rebecca. No, Rachel. He sees this woman named Rachel, which is his uncle's daughter. Now, his uncle has 2 daughters, but Jacob fell in love with Rachel. And boy, was it love at first sight, because this man agreed to work for 7 years just to be able to marry Rachel. Worked 7 years, you all, for his uncle to be able to marry this woman. Now, the wedding night came. It got dark. And the uncle sent in Leah, the older sister, instead. And the next morning, behold, it was Leah, which is Genesis 29:25. The man said, "Wait, who's this?" Paraphrasing, hillbilly terms. He got a dose of his own shady syrup. His uncle said, "In our country, the oldest marries first, but you can still have Rachel. Just give me 7 more years." Yeah, he's already worked 7 years. Think about that. He has already worked 7 years. Now he's going to have to work 7 more. That's 14 to be able to marry the woman that he loved, the one that was agreed to him. But I kind of see the karma in this, because Jacob's dad, like I said, Isaac was blind as a bat. And he went and he tricked Isaac into giving him that blessing. And then in the dark, when he ain't seeing what's happening, the same thing happened to him. He got the wrong woman. He got Leah and didn't get Rachel. But he worked 14 more years for love. Now Jacob had 2 wives, Leah and Rachel, and 2 concubines. Y'all know what a concubine was back then, don't you? With those 4 women, he had 12 sons. You think your family's wild? Try remembering birthdays in this tent. He showed favoritism, played favorites with his kids, just ask poor Joseph, and ran his family like a soap opera. But the most powerful moment came when Jacob was alone, about to face Esau again. Now remember, he ran from Esau. That was the reason he was at the uncle's in the first place. He was scared. That night, the angel of the Lord showed up, and Jacob wrestled with him all night long. "I will not let thee go except thou bless me." That's Genesis 32:26 in the New King James Version. God saw Jacob's desperation, not for tricks this time, but for truth. And he gave him, first of all, he asked him what his name was. And Jacob had to say, "I'm Jacob." Remember, the main beginning of this, he was claiming he was Esau. He was lying about his name to get a blessing that had already been promised to him in the womb. Now he's having to tell God, "I'm Jacob." Now that's pretty powerful. Or in my opinion, it is. Now God saw Jacob's desperation, not for tricks this time, but for the truth. So he gave him a new name. "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel." Genesis 32:28. Which means he who struggles with God and prevails. So here's what I want y'all to take from this story. Holler-style wisdom straight from the word. Jacob was messy. Jacob lied, ran, and got humbled. But God still said, that's my man. I can work with him. That, I don't know about y'all, but that gives me hope, because if God can bless Jacob, he can bless me and you. Now, all through the Bible, you'll find different stories, but every time he's taking broken pieces and making masterpieces. It's the broken that he's using. Some of y'all have been Jacob. You've lied, you've schemed. Maybe you even ran from consequences, but God ain't done with you. He sees your fight, he sees your heart. You just got to stop running and start wrestling. And don't let go till you get that blessing. In Romans 9:13 in the King James Version, Jacob have I loved, not because Jacob was perfect, but because he held on. You know, when I sing on this channel, one of my favorite songs, and I always say it's kind of my testimony, is I held on. No matter what we're going through, we still got to look to who provides us with our peace, with our answers, with our healing. We got to hold on, because we see a lot of the earlier Jacobs today. We see people that are willing to manipulate, deceive, and trick in order to get what they want. We see it on YouTube every day. Every day, people spinning narratives to fit their own situation, to make their own self look better. And in the end, you know, the Bible says that you'll reap what you sow. Jacob did. Jacob sowed deception. He deceived his father, who was blind and couldn't see. And he reaped that same deception, and was gave a woman that he didn't ask for her hand. He was gave Leah instead of Rachel. All through the Bible, you'll find places where they reap what they sow. Even Pharaoh. Pharaoh was having the firstborn children drowned in the Nile. What happened? In that same Nile, he lost his whole army. His whole army he lost. So, I mean, all through the Bible, I can think of several places where they reaped what they sowed. And I've always said we've got to be very mindful of what we say, because words have power. But like the Egyptians, they killed Hebrew male babies, the firstborn. What did they get? Well, in the Bible, the 10th plague, God took their firstborn. That's reaping what you sow. Joseph's brothers, they sold Joseph into slavery. What did they get in return? Famine hit, and they had to stand before Joseph in Egypt, bowing and asking for food. So the man they sold into slavery, they had to stand there and beg for food. King David, another example, took another man's wife, Bathsheba, and had her husband killed. What did he get? The prophet Nathan said, the sword will never leave thy house. And David lost his children and saw turmoil in his whole family. One son violated his daughter, another son murdered, and another tries to steal the throne. Another example of reaping what you sow. And I know I'm going to butcher this name, but Haman, he built gallows to hang Mordecai. What happened? He was hung on those gallows that he built. Hey, Duchess. But we do reap what we sow. And I mean, just like with Jacob, you all. He deceived his father Isaac by pretending that he was Esau to steal the blessing. Later, he was deceived by his uncle, who swapped out Leah for Rachel on their wedding night. Same game, different player. You know, my granny always said you can't do wrong and get by. And that's the truth. I've never known anybody to prevail by tricking and deceiving people. And let's not forget this one, because this is a biggie. Judas. He betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. And then, what did that do him any good? Because he became overcome with guilt and died alone. And then the silver meant nothing. Put a 1 in chat if you've ever saw in your life, or in people that you know's life, where God took broken pieces and made masterpieces. It ain't in the Bible where he uses the perfect person. He always used somebody that needed a little help. You know, the devil, he will tell you you're not good enough. You ain't living close enough. I know he does me like that every time I get ready to tell a Bible story or sing at the piano. He's really used that one on me. But you know, when the devil tells you that, that's when you have to speak the word on your life, and you tell that devil, I rebuke you. You can't tell the truth. You're the father of lies. Because the same God that used the man that stuttered named Moses to lead the children of Egypt out can use me. And yeah, sometimes you may need a little help and he may send you your errand. But God can still use you. Don't let him lie to you. Don't let him steal your blessings or your joy. And like I said, sometimes when we're standing still, it's the hardest time. When you see everything falling around you and you think, Lord, where are you? Don't think he ain't working for you. He is. He is. That prayer you prayed, he heard it. But he's doing it his way. And watch who we listen to. Another thing that we can take away from this story, you know, there had to be a point that Jacob could have looked at his mom and said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not lying to my father. If I'm meant to be blessed, I will be blessed. Because like I said, God had already told Rebekah that Jacob would be blessed right at the beginning, before he was ever born. Because you got to keep in mind, she didn't know she was having twins. Can you imagine that? You prayed for children. Right off the bat, she was being blessed. You pray for children and you get two. I can imagine that them babies was just fighting up a storm in her womb. She didn't know where one foot ended and nothing began. I mean, why else would she have prayed about it? Why would she say, what's going on? And the Lord straight away told her, 2 nations are in thy womb. The elder shall serve the younger. That's Genesis 25:23. He told her right out of the gate that Jacob would be the one being blessed. But she didn't want to wait on God's timing. She wanted to create her own timing. She wanted to do it her way. And she told Jacob, we're going to kill these goats. I'm going to cook up a dinner that your daddy likes. And you're going to go in there and get that blessing because he's blind. Like I said, I'm paraphrasing y'all. I'm putting it holler-style. But I encourage you, go back and read it for yourself. But he's blind. He can't see. He can just feel of you. So he'll feel this hair and he'll think you're Esau. And then Jacob straight up lied. Straight up to his daddy lied. When he asked if he was Esau, he said, I am. But then later on, when he's wrestling with God, and God asked him what his name is, he has to confess, I am Jacob. And it's at that point that God says, you know what? After today, you're not Jacob no more. You're Israel. And he did become a father of a nation. One of the most mentioned men in the Bible. But he started out a mess. He started out with deception. He started out listening to lies and following through with them. And we see that all the time. We see that all the time on these streets. Don't think because things may look like you're a mess right now that God can't use you. He's just waiting to turn your mess into a miracle. But it is in his timing. Because as sure as we try to do things our way, as sure as we try to get before God, our mess is magnified. It's his timing, children, not ours. And now when Esau found out, he was heated. He was mad. He wanted to kill his brother. So that was the reason that Jacob left. That was his whole reason for going to his uncle's, which put him in the place where he actually did find his love. But can you imagine spending your entire life scared that your brother's going to kill you because of a lie you told? That can't be a peaceful life. It can't. Now, if this word hits you where you live, leave a comment. Let me know. What part of Jacob's story reminds you of yourself or someone that you know? Was it the stew, the goat fur, the running, or the wrestling? Because we all know a Jacob, and there's been times that we've all been a Jacob. I have said 100 times, I would love to say that I'm like Esther. But when I look at my life, I know that I'm more like Eve. Because there has been times in my life that I knew better and didn't do better. And that is Eve. She knew better and didn't do better. I love you all. Thank you for being here. I've been sick, so say a prayer for me. But I did want to do this. I wanted to do this short story time. I know it's not the stories about my life, but it is about somebody, not just a character in the Bible. Because, like I said, if we look around, we all know a Jacob. I love y'all. Until next time, remember it takes 0 effort to be a good human being.